Good morning everybody and welcome back to a very special day here on the channel where after a long wait, something we've all been waiting for is finally happening. I welcome you into the first custom set in the Lego Legend of Zelda Custom Set Showcase Wave 8, based off entirely Tears of the Kingdom. Now if you didn't see the trailer the other day, you'll know that today we're starting the first of 18 custom sets that we'll be seeing over the next couple of months, and today I'm introducing you to the start of our adventure and the adventure in Tears of the Kingdom, Z0074, with 689 pieces. This is the Great Sky Island. Let's dive in and see what I've managed to put into this set based off a new iconic location. Now here is our box art showing us all of our key information. Not only can you see the new style we've gone for the next 18 sets, but this is indeed an set aimed at ages 8 and up with 689 pieces retailing for £59.99 Great British pounds, with 2 minifigures and 3 brick-built characters, making a total of 5 characters to play in over 3 Sky Islands. Before we open our box, we've got a set description to read. Awake in the skies above in the latest LEGO Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom set. Explore the Great Sky Island and unravel the mystery of the Zonai constructs. Meet Raru around the island and claim one of the 8 collectible secret stones. Fight the monstrous Flux construct, which can be arranged in many forms as seen in the game, and search for clues on the islands high in the sky. And that's exactly what we're going to do as we open up our box, which inside we will find 7 numbered bags and 2 of the new boring instruction manuals. Opening up our first manual, we'll see that bag 1 builds the base for one of the islands, as well as giving us our archaic tunic or archaic set link. Bag 2 gives us a steward construct and details our first island. Bag 3 starts the main island where the Temple of Time will sit, and bag 4 not only finishes that Temple of Time, but gives us a soldier construct number 1. In our second booklet, which we open after bag 4, we start with bag 5, which builds us or gives us the parts to make a flux construct in one of its 3 forms. Bag 6 builds the base for the final island, and bag 7 finishes it off, gives us our Raru minifigure, and also the collectible secret stone that I mentioned earlier. Now, taking a look at the island as a whole, it's clear to see that this is definitely built in sections, as insinuated by the double instruction manuals. So we're going to start with the build you start with last, which is the sort of higher platform, higher sky island, pseudo inspired by the Room of Awakening. Obviously not a direct replication, it looks nothing like it, but merging a couple of different sky island elements together. You may notice that this is built on stilts, which is something I need to elevate now, because all of our Sky Island builds are simulated as floating, very similar to what was done in the Sky Fortress Minecraft set back in 2021. Basically simulated using glass window panes to build up off a base of white, which has some clouds for decoration to show that we are so high up. This build actually connects to the main island using a rope system, as you can see here, using one of these bendy poles that just connects between the two, and this is supposed to simulate either a really long vine or a rail grind, whatever you want, and Link could obviously swing along it or swing on top of it, and pieces would be included to make this possible, similar to how we see in lots of treehouse sets in LEGO Friends, obstacle courses, or other sets from licenses that use this part. Its flexible nature means it can be attached wherever and has a great deal of maneuverability, and would be recommending to move the 2 sections separately. As is a playset, I could see this being a potential problem. This tire island, as we were talking about earlier, actually has a set of steps which is clearly broken off as the islands have collapsed to the surface, and that is where this vine has attached to. You can see a difference in the colour between the light bluish grey of the Zonai stonework and the dark bluish grey of the rocks that make up the floating Sky Island, which seems to be embedded with some sort of anti-gravity energy, as you can see little sand green elements throughout the game. I should actually draw attention to this rockwork right now, because it is a defining feature of the Sky Island. Not only choosing a palette so that everything contrasts each other, but by creating these jumbled and squared shapes on the edges of the island. While this looks a little simpler than the version you may see in game, that's actually been done deliberately, as well, 1 being easier for me, 2 this makes it feel a little more Lego-like, and I really love the smoothed off and yet pixelated look of the rocks around the edges. I think it looks even better over on the other island as well, so we'll take a look at that in a minute. Up top, we've got some details as well as some empty space. With places like this, it's not all about chucking play features in, but in fact leaving space for the minifigures to pose, and in the case of the Flux construct and Soldier construct, fight and talk and maneuver. So despite looking pretty, this area is mostly for minifigures. Here you can see we have a small pond in dark azure to help contrast against the bright yellowish orange or flame yellowish orange grass that we have here, with 3 lily pads, sort of like the area you fall into after the title sequence. At the back, of course, we have this weird tree structure. As I said, pseudo supposed to represent the Shrine of Awakening, not the Shrine of Awakening, the Room of Awakening, where Link wakes up and finds the broken Master Sword. It's built up of a different colour of tan parts. Tan is the closest colour for the trees on the Sky Island, as well as some roots that weave their way across the island using different animal parts. You'll see lots of bright yellowish orange leaves scattered throughout the set, and on the off chance that you were noticing, you'll notice some grey on the inside, which I'll show you in just a second. The actual curvature of the roots that make this tree look a little better than just a pile of Lego slopes is the trunk element in tan. This is not a recolor, surprisingly, much to my shock, and this sort of helps to create the shape that this room is within the roots of the tree. Around the back, as I mentioned, there was a little grey area, again sort of supposed to represent the platform where Link wakes up. And while the broken Master Sword isn't included in this piece, if you happen to have Narsil or a spare of Narsil from the new Rivendell set, that would be ideal for a purist custom. Just a small little area to represent another iconic moment from the Sky Islands. That brings us over to our next section, which is two separate islands, but they're built on the same base plate. We're going to start over with our main piece, of course, the Temple of Time, shrunken down and made chibified. It looks as imposing as ever, as you would expect from the ground level, and once again you can see more of our stylized rockwork around the base of this Sky Island. Out the front is a little area for either you to fight a soldier construct, flux construct, or maybe meet Rauru. You've got some leaves on what looks like a stone platform buried into the bright yellowish orange grass. And then towards the back you've got an open doorway through the bottom of the Temple of Time. Now those of you that have played the game will know that there is a series of doors and rooms down here, but at this scale, which this set needed to be, a middle range set at a middling price point, there's just no ability to make the temple any bigger, and I wanted to capture its architectural shape rather than its interior details. You could very easily put Rauru's stone in the middle here, just in case you wanted it to be a little more accurate, as Rauru's stone is pretty much the same colour as one that is unturned by like a sage, meaning it is a good stand-in for an unused stone, so a stone that hasn't been claimed by a user. Of course, that's not it, as the actual temple itself has many architectural details, making great use of these new curvy places seen all over pagoda roofs in Japanese themed architecture. And as I mentioned, you of course could put the Flux construct here, as this is probably the best arena in the set to fight him, unless you just fight him on your carpet floor. Looking through the middle, you could also place Rauru's Secret Stone on the pedestal where the Master Sword goes back in time. And of course, as I mentioned, if you had the Narsil element, that would also be fantastic to go there. This bridge section is disconnected like the one seen in game. I opted to only include some of the path as I thought it looked a lot cleaner, just to make it a broken path rather than a path with like layers of floating slightly below. This section sticks out of the back by quite a way, has some more rockwork around it as well as a plinth, which of course, taking a closer look up, looks pretty much like the one in game and is a nice distance away, able to recreate some interesting shots from this distance. Such as this, one of my favourite renders that I've been able to do, and while simple and not really including most of the model, you could sort of imagine that this is Link's first jump into Hyrule. Moving back to the temple itself, as I said, it takes up the dominant force of the skyline and adds some much needed height to this great Sky Island set. It's actually built entirely up down and uses some large panel pieces at its centre for more structural stability. Lots of these inverted bow elements have been turned upside down and have been made to good use to create the curvy parts at the corners, and I've tried to replicate the rounded edge at the top. You can see that a little more clearly here. The two part combinations that I've used, a 1x3 bow and then the pagoda piece. At the top is a microscale version of the gardens that you'd find up here, with a dark bluish grey rounded plate at the centre representing the area where you find a steward construct. So your steward construct could find a home up here. There are also some blue plates which may look a little disconcerting from the sky, but they are designed to represent the water that you found down below, and I found that the plates that are on the side, while absolutely necessary for the structure of this model, actually look a great deal like the fountains at this scale, so actually they've worked out really nicely that you can see them, as it looks like that's where the water is flowing from. The next angle involves a 45-degree turn for the next island. This island is actually built at an angle for a reason, one to add visual interest, but also to create an interesting shape. And as a whole, it is quite jam-packed with lots of different things, so we'll take a look at it one by one. Starting over where it connects to the other island, you can see a retracted Zonai bridge marked out by two of the egg pieces in aqua. This was recolor for this wave. It's going to be used quite a lot throughout the set, I think. And you can see the Zonai structure for a bridge down below, breaking up once again the dark bluish grey surroundings with a little bit of light bluish grey. These pillars of course would extend as the bridge comes across, but this is a Lego model, so it's nice and static. Down below, once again, the island is floating, my favourite example of the jumbled rockwork, as well as some tree roots poking through from some snot bricks from a tree up above, which we'll take a look at in a second. Over on the rest of the island, we have a little ruin of a zonite building. You find these all across the island, and this is just a microscale version of one of those. That has a cooking pot in the centre, again a secondary spot for you to put your steward construct. This is built in a new way that I've developed for this wave of Tears of the Kingdom sets, using the octagonal plate, as well as one of the fire superhero elements with a dish inverted on the top, and then with a 2x2 tile with a toll instead in light aqua to represent sort of like a bubbling, boiling liquid. Maybe it's a little too close colour-wise to the eggs, which represent the zonite tech, but it's close enough. Beyond that, of course, you've got a load of stonework broken up on the floor as the grass starts to poke through, as well as bricks all at different levels. If you've seen the rockwork in the game, you know exactly what I'm talking about, as well as the beginning of a broken off inverted pillar standing out above the rest of the ruin. At the very end, we have a fallen tree stump with some studs in the middle, and while it doesn't look perfect, this has been done so that a figure could sit here. Either Link or Rauru could sit down and admire the world off the edge of the cliff. In fact, this is specifically based off a moment where you find Rauru sat on a log on one of the skylands, and I thought it would be cool to be able to replicate that here. There's also a pot present on the island, as well as I mentioned the tree which roots are poking out below. Next up, we've got to talk about our Flux construct, who is made up of a brand new element and then minifigure superhero poser pieces, which are recolored into turquoise for this wave. This is one of two new elements that have been developed across the various constructs that we've made for these waves. If you want to learn about the element in the soldier, steward, and eventually captain construct, I recommend checking out my dedicated video to the topic, hopefully linked above. However, here is the major form of a Flux construct in using a modified version of the Minecraft headpiece with 3 positive studs and 3 anti-studs designed in a specific combination so that various different versions of the Flux construct are always able to be put together. As you can see, he's fully articulatable and is at a scale where I'm pretty convinced that he'd be nice and strong. Using the minifigure poser pieces to represent the energy flowing through his arms, you can see you can achieve a variety of poses with both his legs and arms, not to mention he can be entirely rebuilt into his other forms. Here, for example, is the floating form where you would use the recoil on the blocks. Of course, the blocks can actually be thrown at Link, but beyond that, you can also see that he is high up in the sky chasing him, like Link from below, ready to launch and then drop on him. You can see that view clearly from the top from the left, including one block which is being given to us in dark turquoise instead of sand green to represent the core block, and that can obviously be moved around as you wish, whether it be a flux 1, 2 or 3. You've also got the cube version, allowing this to roll around across your living room floor. As I said, I wanted the flux construct to be able to achieve all of its forms, and the previous versions we took a look at in that very same construct video were just too big and eaten into the part count way too much. Therefore, it was necessary to make a new piece. So we're going to take a look through our figures now, and first up that includes Link in his archaic tunic. This is a figure that I actually designed for a pre-Tears of the Kingdom set, the Battle Talus Takedown. If you're wondering where that stands in this wave, it doesn't. It's been moved to wave 6 of the custom set showcase, where it get a little revamp, the figures will get updated, and it will be given some new box art to make that one work. As for Calamity Cave Chaos, that set has actually been removed and is being placed in the what if scenario of sets, meaning that it's no longer canon to the custom set showcase, but it was still a fun experiment. Archaic Tunic Link is a fairly unique outfit and definitely the signature outfit of this game, and he's using a brand new hairpiece that has been designed for him for this wave. He'll be using it in many of his outfits. Not only have you got the green printing on his shoulder as well as his arm that was given to him by Rauru, but the dark tan and green goes across the rest of his torso and onto his dual molded legs. He has a stern expression, and then of course he's not our only figure here. We'll be seeing lots of different Link outfits as we move through our other sets. Next up we have Rauru, along with the new mould for his secret stone. He also has a new mould for his head. He's using regular legs and then a regular torso with various printing to match his in-game design. Shockingly, there when he's not in ghost form, the markings appear to be dark blue. You've also got the weird dragon-like scales as well as his third eye on his moulded piece. His legs are of course dual moulded, and while it's very difficult to find a rendering of his legs, this is definitely a figure that I think is a must-have for any Tears of the Kingdom sets. Now, I've been talking a lot about these secret stones, but that is in fact one of the gimmicks for this wave. You may have seen me use the collect them all tagline, and that is because 8 versions of this secret stone piece are appearing off select sets of the wave. This is a tactic that we see used all the time in LEGO Ninjago, such as collect the golden weapons, as well as in the original 2018 LEGO Infinity War wave, where it was encouraged for you to buy all 6 sets in order to get all 6 gems. And while these stones don't collect together in any specific way, all stones and their wielders will be present across both parts of this wave, and you'll have to wait and see, because obviously 8 stones and 18 sets, not every set will have a stone. However, this is just a marketing strategy to attempt to get kids to buy more sets, because you've got to have all the stones, right? Next up, we have some more figures to take a look at though, and starting with the Soldier Construct 1. Once again, you can see the new element designed here for the Soldier, Steward and Captain constructs, used on the lower jaw with some printing for his teeth. I've tried to replicate the designs as close as possible, but obviously some of the detail will be lost. When translating things like this into Lego form, it's important to understand that not everything can be replicated faithfully, and it's about getting the general essence of a character rather than a perfect representation, which would require hundreds of new molds. The only new mold here, of course, is the lower jaw element, and because that's been used across multiple different sets with multiple different characters, I was able to justify its inclusion, because it not only allowed me to make a soldier construct in the color scheme of sand green, dark turquoise and dark orange, but it also allowed me to make a steward construct. You'll see the same piece used with different printing around his legs to represent the conical shapes that appear beneath him. Now this is my favourite of the construct designs that we'll be seeing, and he will definitely be showing up in another set. He's got his long arms, which are used in a similar technique to the Doc Ock set from the Daily Bugle, where it uses minifigure poser pieces in between Apollo studs in sand green to show the energy flowing through, to the hand gauntlet piece which has been recolored into sand green. He's also got some more printing on a 1x2 tile, as well as a 1x2 rounded half semicircle tile. You can see the earrings dangling below, and as well as the neck using the same technique as the Dr. Octopus one. Maybe a little bit long, maybe a little bit top heavy, but I've left a hole in the bottom for you to stick some transparent bricks into in order to attach him to some studs and keep him upright. Due to the different scale, the eggs, or which would usually use the egg piece in normal sets, have been shrunken down to use the bulb element in white, just to make them more scale accurate and stand out a little less. The actual sort of muzzle of this creature, of golem, whatever you want to call it, is using a wedge plate that's been recolored into sand green. Lots of recolors into sand green for this wave, making some people very happy. Not too many though, not too many. And then lastly, while we've already looked at him, I wanted to show you the drawn version of the Flux construct, and of course referencing in game. Now, while many of you may associate dark orange as well as a little bit of light bluish grey with the Flux construct, that is more so the version 2 and the version 3. The dark orange becomes a lot more apparent and he becomes more golden. This is a Flux construct 1. Hence why it is sand green. Unfortunately, the pieces are just too small to where printing would not be viable, and I know for sure that Lego would not print on 5 out of 6 sides of a dome, especially when it's attached like this. So we'll have to forgo printing and just make do with the shape. If you want to see a bigger version of the Flux construct, which has a lot more detail, again, check out that previous video. Here they all are together. We will see this lineup expanded as we go through more custom sets and we add more ranks of constructs to our setup. Of course, the main notable exception right now is the Captain construct. I also wanted to bring up this image before we finish up for today. This is every Link minifigure that has been drawn in the showcase so far, and you would have seen this in the trailer video from last week. I wanted to add the archaic Link into the bottom right hand corner, as well as the Tears of the Kingdom cave Link, which we did for the cave trailer set. I just wanted to show you how many variants of the character we have, and don't worry, we're adding like another 10 this wave. So many new outfits in Tears that we've got to turn into figure form. And that is actually going to do it for our look at the first Wave 8 set in the Tears of the Kingdom wave, the Great Sky Island. As you can see on the box art, we have Rauru taking up our side box spot, a lovely blue background, and on the top we've got the collect them all symbol, because this is a set that contains a tier. Sets that don't contain tiers will not have this branding, so as to not confuse anybody that thinks they might include one. But of course that's not our only gimmick to take a look at this wave, and we'll be introducing the next gimmick next time. Well, part of it. This is a two-parter. First up though, we'll be seeing Z0075 with the code name of Watch next time here on the Custom Set Showcase in 2 or 3 weeks, whenever I get around to it. You may be able to guess what it is, but let me assure you there's more here than meets the eye. Not only is this the largest playset custom set that I've ever done on the channel, it is also way too large and has many minifigures, but it also has a special relationship to a set that you'll see shortly after. Hopefully that will keep you intrigued. It's a very interesting concept, something that's been done before in Lego Star Wars, that's all I'll say. But in the meantime, let me know what you thought of the Great Sky Island, what you're excited for in Wave 8, and if you haven't seen the previous content here for Wave 4, older Zelda sets based off the older games, or in fact any of the lead-up content that I've been doing for this Tears of the Kingdom wave, go and check that out down below and consider leaving a like or subscribing to the channel. And I will see you next week. Bye-bye.